Hey, this is Travis again, just doing the second installment of this re-recording of an old song now called 10 Years Something or Other. We'll see where the title lands. So today we're recording bass. Well, we aren't recording bass today. I recorded bass the other day, but I'm going to talk about recording bass today. First off, before I start telling you what I'm doing, I want to sort of give the lay of the land of why I'm doing it. Because you have to make these decisions before you start working on things. One thing with any recording project that you work with, you need to map out in your mind what instruments you have, what role they play, how they're going to interrelate once you recorded them. A lot of times if you're working with an actual band, this is, pretty much figured out by what your lineup is and maybe how you get your sounds to work live. On a recording, it's usually a little bit different. You usually add a few little elements recorded that you wouldn't be able to do live, generally because live brings in a whole lot of other feel stuff, a lot of other, points of interest that an audio recording doesn't have. There's no visual there. There's no, there isn't the sheer amount of volume. There isn't all of these other things happening. So usually you want to add a little bit of extra ear candy on an audio recording in order to, keep it interesting for people. All that aside, so for this, and really for a lot of my projects, if you're familiar with any of the Rule 17 demos that have been out, or the Seventh Seal album, even to a degree Echoes in the Dark. That one not quite so much. That I kind of did a kitchen sink on that. But those others, I had sort of a conceptual band in mind where it was a drummer, two guitars, a bass player, and a vocalist. So that's the case too with this song in particular here. So that affects the way that you approach recording things, and in this case, namely bass. So what sort of decisions did I make for the bass? First off, I chose to play bass with pick versus fingers. Now there's probably at some point maybe some, this will be on YouTube, some YouTube purists will be like, you're not a real bass player because you're not playing with your fingers. The reality is, I can play with my fingers, but if I want to have a good take and have it in time, I would have to be playing the bass with my fingers, with a metronome, or along to drum tracks, or with a drummer for at least a half hour a day for some time in order to get that timing built up in the fingers. You need to have that dexterity there. For me, since I primarily play the guitar, the pick is a natural default on it. And so for the purposes of what I'm doing, that makes sense. And also sonically, it makes a lot of sense too. There are certain sounds that you can get with a picked bass that, you play with your fingers. You usually get a rounder, deader sound. You don't wind up with as much high end on there. And I wanted this bass part to be a little punchier and a little clearer, which you'll hear later how it works out. So first off, wanted it to be tight. Wanted good performances. You'll see later, sort of the level I'm expecting of this. And then also want it to cut in a certain way. That also affected the way that I record. And so why do I want the bass to have a certain sonic signature? Reason being, there's going to be two rhythm guitars as far as featured parts, and then one other rhythm guitar sort of underneath those two. The bass, I'm going to have two tracks of one performance, one mic track, one DI track. That allows me, since there's only the single performance, to have a little bit more leeway as far as the way I approach mixing the bass. And it definitely affected the way I mapped it out. So basically what I'm looking at is I need the bass to fill up the low end and sort of build that bridge into the guitars. I'm going to have two main rhythm guitars, one left, one right, and those rhythm guitars are going to be a fairly bright, mid-rangey, Marshall-y type guitar sound, distorted guitar sound. There's going to be a third guitar, mixed lower, chunkier. It'll be my 5150 sound, sort of to add a little bit of extra oomph in there without overpowering everything. So I guess that's the thing. You need to map that out before you start, setting out how you're recording things, because you need to know what you want to hear before you decide how you're going to hear it. So the role of the bass in this song is primarily to reinforce the rhythm. The bass acts as a bridge between the kick drum and the guitars. It takes the rhythmic element, it augments that, and then it builds that bridge to provide low end where it meets with the guitars. So it, like most songs in this style, it's hovering around the root and the fifth of the chord a lot. It's not necessarily doing all sorts of spectacular inversions or anything like that, but that's fine. That's the role it needs to play. And actually, the main verse riff of the song is fairly bass dominant in a lot of ways. I mean, the bass plays a strong role in that riff. So that's the other part too. So the bass is really carrying a pretty strong role as being an octave down from what the rhythm guitars are doing throughout there, and keeping that consistently throughout the verses of the song. Obviously, the second priority is providing that sonic foundation for the guitars, giving that low end oomph, tying the guitars into with the drums. And then the third part is to add a little bit of harmonic detail here and there. There's a couple of little fill bits or just little different intricacies that you can add in there. Not a lot of them, but just a few of them, just a little bit to add some points of interest there. Ultimately, the bass is there to serve the other instruments, like that third guitar, and even the other two guitar parts. Basically, one exists to augment the other. A person could, obviously you can play the song with one guitar. This could be arranged for a one guitar bass, type arrangement. But it changes the nature of things. And obviously, if you're going to do something that's a different style of music, you're going to want to approach the way you're recording the bass differently. Same with the other instruments. So what did I do to set up the bass? Well, I'll take a quick look at this video here. This is some pretty high quality video we have going on. You can see that I have a small microphone pointed about a foot away from the speaker. If we were to sight along it, we would see that it's pointed about midway along the cone. And then on the top of the amp, there is a little Bugera attenuator. Now, the whole point in this is, for one thing, I am running through a guitar amp. Why? I don't have a bass amp because I've never really felt the need to have a bass amp. And really, there isn't that much difference, particularly if you're recording, unless you're going for like if you have an Ampeg SVT or a really noteworthy bass amp. Okay, you're going to have a pretty notable bass sound with that. I get that. But if you're looking for any bass sound, there isn't that much difference in a lot of ways between guitar amps and bass amps. There's some difference in the speakers. Bass speakers are typically pitched a little bit so that they tend to emphasize lower frequencies, obviously. The amplifiers may have limiters in them, that sort of thing. And definitely there's a wattage difference. Bass amps are almost always a lot higher wattage because you need that much wattage, you need that much power to push bass frequencies live. For recording, you'll see later, this isn't really very loud. All I really wanted was to provide enough volume so the mic can pick something up and I can have an actual live sound off a speaker in the real world to go along with the DI. Now, how I wind up mixing that, it really kind of comes down to how the rest of the mix works. I really wanted to have that mic there, though, because it adds a little bit of air, a little bit of detail, a little bit of, reality to the sound. We're very used to hearing bass DIs. We've been hearing bass DIs for years. I would say the majority of bass tracks that you're hearing are direct recordings. And, interestingly enough, there isn't that much of a difference. There's some, but there isn't that much difference as far as the frequencies that are picked up between the mic and the DI on this, which we'll hear a little bit about that later. Why did I pick the mic that I chose? Why did I put it where I did? I put it that far back so that I didn't have to horse around with phase issues, for one thing. I didn't want to, if you have the DI, you need to make sure that the mic is in phase with the DI, but if you back the mic away far enough, you don't have phase problems. So that's part of it. The type of mic, it's a CAD small diaphragm condenser mic. And typically you'd use that on maybe an acoustic guitar or drum overheads or a hi-hat or a ride cymbal. They work really well on that. What they tend to sound like, and they can be a little bit harsh on the top end if they're a relatively cheap mic. That's a pretty cheap mic. But I've used it actually with good success on acoustic guitars. It's not the type of thing you typically mic a bass amp with. A lot of times people will take like a kick drum mic. Once again, I wasn't really looking for this big low end experience going with that. I wanted to capture more of an even frequency response, and I wanted to capture the high end. I wanted to capture the brightness. I wanted to capture the character of the cone of the speaker, rather than trying to develop this big low end thing, because I can take the DI and make it do that. What I can't do is take a DI and make it be a live speaker. So I wanted the condenser to fill that role. So that's sort of the technical questions behind how I approached recording this bass. Now, here we're going to take a look at a performance. This will be exciting, I'm sure. I'm sure it'll be great. We have a performance here of me playing the bass. So what I did, I got set up. The bass itself is a Fender 5-string Squire. I can't remember which edition it is, but it's a 5-string Squire, maple body, maple neck. Actually, I think it was like $400 or something. I mean, it wasn't an expensive bass at all. Obviously, it's a Squire. Actually, really good value for the money. It holds tune like nobody's business. It sounds good. Plays really nice. I've had zero problems with it. If there's any problem with these bass tracks, it probably has a lot more to do with the player and the engineer than it does with the actual instrument that I was using, despite the fact that it's a $400 guitar. Sounds good. Has a sort of a bright Fender Jazz sound. I could probably upgrade pickups in it at some point, but even the stock pickups in it are actually pretty decent. So anyway, let's take a quick look here. There I am. Okay, I'm feeling it. I'm nodding my head and listening along. I'm standing right in front of the amplifier. Got my headphones on. And I'm bopping away. Oh boy, look at my face. Boy, that's serious. It's serious. This is serious work going on here. Close those eyes. Think about what you're doing. Now, this all looks pretty decent. Aside from the fact that I'm apparently distracted by something over to the side here. And I can tell you, I wound up being very comfortable standing there playing like that. I'm kind of looking at the phone. I record these videos on my phone. I mean, I'm no great YouTuber, and I had that set right in front of the monitor. So to look at, whoopsie, there's a little mess up. Instead of so to look at the recording software, basically looking right past the phone. So I'm looking disgustedly at the phone, it appears. So, aside from that screw up, it all seems well and fine. I guess except for one thing. Now, the audio we're hearing is off of the phone. It's not from the recording, because I didn't save any of it. There wasn't any point. This video of me standing playing is about 20 minutes long, and that was about 20 minutes of retake and retake and retake and retake. I didn't use any of it. I deleted the whole works, and then I went and I sat down and started it all over again. Now, the seated takes, here I'll load these up here in a second. The seated takes obviously went a whole lot better. Nowhere near as comfortable. I mean, it's a lot more comfortable to stand and play than it is to sit the way I have my desk set up with a bass neck sticking, way out here, and one leg crossed and whatever else. It's not ideal, but I played better. I don't know why exactly. I was pushing the beat, rushing when I was standing. And some of it may have had to do because I was right in front of the amp. Maybe I was getting too much of the bass bleeding through as well as in the earphones, and not hearing enough of the kick drum. I don't know exactly what it was. I sat down and that fixed it. So here's our great seated performance. Once again, you do what you gotta do in order to get a performance that works. And I could have taken those standing performances and edited the heck out of them and gotten them to work, but I really don't want to do that. I want everything to be as close to a full take through as possible, because I just think that feels better. There is some variance there. It's not, making everything perfect. All right, here we are. I have one headphone on, not two. Oh, I'm tapping on the bass body here. This is... Now, what we're hearing right now is actually not from the phone camera at all. This is from the actual recording. So this is through the mics and the DI. I have the DI and the mic set at the same level. So this is my straight in bass sound, nothing on it, just straight up bass sound. One thing that I found sitting down, I started picking closer to the middle pickup. It would be kind of like a neck pickup on a guitar, except it's in the middle. And that gave me a little bit meatier sound, which I liked a little bit better, while still retaining enough clarity. Now the timing on this is quite a bit better than the standing takes. It's not absolutely dead perfect. Like if you were editing, you would edit this maybe perfect. I don't really know that I want to do that, but I want it to be really good. But I don't know that I want it to be dead on perfect, because perfection gets boring. Some of these parts, this is the funny thing, is that this isn't a hard song to play on the bass by any stretch of the imagination. But when you're sitting there recording, it is very easy to screw up something that's very simple. So anyway, I cut the song a little bit shorter. Here we are. You get a little interest. We're going into the oh, there we are. We're in the A-team section. Close those eyes. Look out. B.A. Baracus is chasing you in his van. Boy, I look excited. That is a look. That is the exact expression that my great aunt Esther had my entire memory of her. Just that. Never changing. Yeah. Woohoo! I actually ascended the scale. Woo! There's my little Geddy Lee moment. Okay, not quite. Gary Lee. Jerry Lee. I look as pleased as ever. Picking away there. Once again, looking at the recording software, seeing where I am on things, making sure everything seems relatively lined up. Oh, I look a little perturbed there. I must have screwed something up a little bit in my mind. It's another thing that's funny about recording is that you, if something feels a little off, maybe it doesn't sound off. You discover this if you play something live and someone records it, or you record it or whatever. You play something and it feels a little weird. The pick gets a little weird in your finger, or your finger gets a little weird on the guitar, or something like that, and you feel like you absolutely biffed it. And then you listen back and it's fine. There we are. That's the end of it. There I am. All right, shut off the camera. That's enough of that foolishness. There we go. All right, so that's the overview of how I approached recording the bass on this. I'll do a little editing in here. I'll try to keep this a little bit shorter, but next time around I'm going to be doing the rhythm guitars. So that'll be landing here in a few days. Obviously, I need to record them. Probably approach it kind of similarly to how I did this. There's a bit more to it, obviously, because like I'd said, I'm going to be doing, I have 2 tracks. I'm not gonna play all the takes. There's no way anyone would bother sitting through that. But there's going to be the tracking with the Marshall rig, so the DSL 50 through a 1960 cab with Celestion 75 waters. That's going to be the main left and right tracks. Once again, like I was talking about earlier, because they're going to have that mid-rangey, trebly, punchy sound to kind of cut through and carry through those slightly notier rhythm guitar parts. And then my 5150, that's an old dog. It's like the first year, like 1992-ish, 1-ish. It's got the block logo. Anyway, it's running through a Marshall bottom vintage cab, so it's got vintage 30 speakers. So that's sort of the stereotypical metal amp, I guess, at this point. So that'll be providing that third track that's going to be kind of mixed up underneath and adding a little bit more oomph to it. So a little bit more involved. I'll try to, I'll shoot for brevity on that one. That'll be a fun one. And then I think we'll have a couple more installments after that, because there's a couple more guitar parts to track, but I don't want to do it all in one video. So anyway, if you stuck through it this far, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. Leave any comments below if there's anything that I skipped or anything you want to know or anything that you think I said that was stupid. Maybe, might as well. Once again, chances are very good that you may already know this. You may know more about recording than I do, but for those who are getting started, stuff like this, especially the why you're doing it this way, answers all sorts of things. There's an awful lot of hows, but there aren't that many whys sometimes when you're looking for them. So anyway, thanks for watching. Bye.